Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lunch for the Soul, my favorite time of the week. Wednesdays, 12:30, the place to be if you're ready to be uplifted, often about stories of someone who's been through something tragic but came out better on the other side, and they're finally able to see the blessings in whatever they've been through. That's certainly the situation today for our guest, and I want you to please, let's put our hands together. How about that for Stephanie Durr? Here she is. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome to Lunch for the Soul.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy to see you. You have such a positive message to share after going through something really tough and really a road to recovery the past 5 years after an horrific car crash. I want to start with what was going on in your life. Let's paint the picture of what was going on and how things were really good in your life at the time. You were young, single, hot, fancy free.
Yeah, so before the accident, I had recently graduated with my bachelor's in public administration from Kentucky State University. Go Breads.
All
Um,
right.
I was traveling. I was exploring graduate programs. I had received my first job after graduation. I was making what at the time was pretty good money. I had just completed my reign as Miss Kentucky State University.
And look at you.
Thank
Oh, you're
you.
so beautiful. You look like a queen right here, my friend.
Thank you. So I was just on a all-time life high. I had accomplished so many things. I had, had a sense of pride within my family with being a first-generation college student. And I was really ready to take on that next level before the car accident happened.
Okay, so you're driving to work and this happens.
Yeah,
Devastating to see this. And you can only imagine being behind the wheel, what
absolutely.
that sounded, felt like. What do you remember from that day?
So at the time, I was on a substitute teaching assignment while I was starting my first semester of graduate school at the University of Louisville. And I was on my way to work. It was really dark, so it had to be around like 6:45 in the morning. And I was trying to find me an upbeat song to get my day started. And the last thing I remember literally was putting on that song, driving for about maybe 2 minutes. And when I woke up, I woke up to catastrophe, honestly, shock, not knowing what happened. I woke up with a lot of guilt. The first thing I remember saying when the paramedics came to the car was, is it my fault? Did I hurt anybody? Is everybody okay? I instantly just thought, because the last thing I recall was being on my phone and trying to find a song.
Mhm.
And so when I came back to consciousness, it was that feeling of guilt that I caused something tragic to happen. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody was okay.
Mhm. Everybody else was okay and it wasn't your fault?
It wasn't my fault. Everybody was okay. What actually from the police report happened was a pickup truck was trying to avoid a taxi cab, came onto my side of the road, hit me head on because they couldn't make it back to the appropriate side of the road in time. And so that's how the car accident took place.
My goodness. And you knew the second emergency responders got you out of the car that something was really wrong. Walk us through that because the car is smoking. They're trying to urge you out of that vehicle because they don't know if it's going to catch fire.
Yeah. And so when I lifted my head up from the steering wheel, because I was kind of like hunched over the steering wheel, and everybody was yelling, we have to get you out, jaws of life, cutting the seatbelt. So it was a lot happening at that time. And when I was assisted by the paramedics, they kept asking me, do you feel anything hurt? I tried to walk and I couldn't. But in my mind, I thought maybe my body is just still in shock from what happened. But once they placed me on that stretcher, Melissa, I instantly realized that my right leg was a lot shorter than my left leg. And that's when I knew, okay, something had happened.
Mhm.
I couldn't feel it, but I could see it. And instantly I began to just internally worry. But the first thing I said was call my mom.
Yeah.
Immediately after that, I reached out to some support that was in Louisville to meet me at the paramedics while my family drove 5 hours from Detroit. They were there that evening to see about me. But it was a lot that had happened within the span of maybe 12 to 16 hours.
And
And
here you are, you're young, you're in your 20s, you're in
yeah,
grad school, then you find out you're going to have 3 back-to-back surgeries. We take a look
yeah,
at some x-rays where they're showing you what's going to have to happen. Then you suffer a pulmonary embolism, which is a life-threatening blood clot that's shot to your lungs because
yeah,
of internal injuries, one thing after another. Let's talk about your faith and how that played a huge role in your healing, because this is a lot to go through.
absolutely. Melissa, I can recall one night after my first surgery, my mom was in a reclining chair next to me. And I was laying back. I had some gospel music playing in my ear. It was a song by Kirk Franklin about how God keeps looking out for me. And I had that playing in my ear, and I just began to weep. I was weeping, and something came over my spirit at that time. And it was a sense of comfort. It was a sense of, you know how they say you cry in the midnight hour, but in the morning joy comes. And that was what I felt like I was in a place of mourning. I was mourning my independence. I was mourning the fact that I would have to learn how to walk again. I had a woe is me mentality, like, why is this happening to me? And in that night after my first surgery, God just came and spoke to me and said, Stephanie, you're going to be okay. I got you. You are going to make it out on the other side, and you're going to have a story to tell. And so since that night, a lot of people don't know, I began to just look at things totally different. Like, what is God trying to teach me in this season? Why did he need to sit me still? And in that moment, I realized that all of this was working out for my good. All the things that have happened with over the past 5 years, I never could have expected in that hospital bed that night. Not going on to finish my graduate degree, not going on to be offered several very great professional opportunities, starting my own business, moving to Houston, Texas. I never imagined these things happening for me, but in that night, my faith was just restored. I looked around me, I still had breath in my lungs. I had a family and a support system around me that just encouraged me so much. Everybody rallied around me and gathered around me, and I knew that I had more life to live, and God spared my life for a reason. And so I'm thankful for this opportunity to share that story.
Yeah, well, you have just a beautiful soul and spirit about you. And we see here the loved ones who really helped just make you feel so loved and so cared for when you really couldn't take care of yourself. You were confined to a wheelchair for a while and had to
Yeah.
learn how to navigate that. What is your advice to us who have, let's put it on the other side. So you as the patient, you know what it took to help you get through this. Let's say we're a family member of somebody going through a hard time. What is your suggestion? What helped you the most from these beautiful people right here, and how they made a difference in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it's about having patience
Mhm.
and grace for yourself. The Bible tells us not to lean on our own understanding. And so, in that moment, and in the moments where tragedy happens in our lives, we can't make sense of it, right? We're trying to figure out, why is this happening? How I'm going to navigate through it. But what I would encourage everyone to do is just to take a pause and to think about what is trying to be revealed to you in this season, why this had to happen. I couldn't walk, I couldn't move around, I couldn't bathe myself, all these things. And I was used to getting up, going to Vegas, going here, going there, just moving around. And I knew at that moment, God wanted to sit me still to tell me some things, to plant some seeds in me, to have some one-on-one time with me.
Mhm.
And what I would like to encourage everybody is to just think about what you can get. What is the lesson in this season?
Mhm.
And how can you lean on the folks that God has placed in your life as a sense of support and as a sense of comfort, and understanding that you're not in this alone.
Mhm.
I felt so alone some nights in that hospital. But when I looked to my right and I saw my mom, or, my brother came and slept with me at night, my friends, when I will wake up after surgeries and see all the flowers and all the cards and that just consistent support, it motivated me to keep pushing, because again, I knew that there were people rooting for me. There were people who were invested in my healing and invested in me making it to the other side. And I really wanted to spend my time focusing on getting better, to show them what's capable when you put your faith and your trust in God.
And we take a look here at, like you were saying, you were just so young and carefree, and then we're just overnight confined to a wheelchair and just trying to figure that out. What did your family do or your friends say or do to help you? Because you say they were such a big part of your healing as well as your faith. How did they help you? Because sometimes you can say, oh, it's going to be okay. And that just makes you angry. It's like, no, it's not. I'm dealing with this and I don't know how to get around and I don't know how I'm going to take care of myself. How did they help you?
So for me, my friends and my family were always just that constant support and positivity. The night that the accident happened, I was under some medications, but when I woke up, my grandmother, my grandfather, my uncle who just recently passed drove from Tennessee to Kentucky, my parents, my siblings, my friends from different states got on the road, and if they weren't there that day, they was there the next day. And so to be surrounded by so much love and just to see how many people want you to pull through, it gives you another sense of motivation that even if it's not okay right now, have faith that it will be eventually. Because if no one else saw a positive outcome, they wouldn't be here rallying around me.
Well, and you did have some hard times of thinking, wow, I've lost my independence. I've lost my education. You were in the middle of studying so much and really working toward that graduate degree. How did you come from this is ridiculous and why is it happening to I've got a story to share? How did you flip the page?
Yeah. When I reached out to some of my professors and let them know what had happened, they were definitely supportive, told me that I can take a incomplete and finish over the summer at the time. And so once I was discharged from the hospital, I was placed on a medical jet. Me and my mother went back to Detroit, Michigan, where I was born and raised. And I sat in the medical jet and I thought to myself on that short 45-minute ride that, Stephanie, life is not over. New life has just begun. So all of the things that you have encountered, all of the things that you have done and been through, let's use this as an opportunity to turn the page and start fresh. So I began to think about some of the negative ways that I had thought in the past, some of the negative things that I have done or participated in the past that I felt I no longer wanted to be associated with. And this time of isolation and being set still really gave me the perfect foundation to creating a new life and stepping into what God really had for me. And there's no denying there have been things that have happened in the past 5 years. But because of this situation, I have a new approach to adversity.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if I can make it through that, I definitely can make it through some of the other things that are coming my way.
And when you say make it through that, this is a journey. Only a couple years ago, you had to undergo a hip replacement, a total hip replacement, which is what we think of, oh, maybe when I get to 70, I'll have to do that. Here you are in your 20s dealing with this.
Yeah.
So that had to be a whole new layer of going through rehab and learning basically how to walk again with a new hip, right? But did that take off a layer of pain that you'd been suffering?
Yeah, it was two sides of it. It took away a layer of pain in regards to my quality of life. But I felt like even with undergoing the total hip replacement, God was testing me to see my faith and my trust and my belief in him, to say, hey, I know that I healed you. I brought you through this and you thought it was over. But hey, if you want to make God laugh, try to tell him your plans. And so at this time, with the hip replacement, I had moved to Maryland after I completed graduate school, got a job at an institution, and I was struggling to walk. It was a lot of stiffness. My quality of life was just really poor. And so the surgeons got together and recommended me to get a hip replacement. And it was triggering because they went through the same incision from one of my previous surgeries. And it reminded me a lot of that recovery phase from my surgery. But this time I wasn't starting from scratch. I had more strength. I had more faith. I had more encouragement and wisdom. I had been through a series of, therapy for my mental well-being. I had really dived into my relationship with God deeper. And so I went into the hip replacement with a certain level of confidence, again, that if he did it before, I know that he'll show up for me in this instance. And it's only to make me better. And my life has changed tremendously in the past 2 years since my hip replacement.
Oh, that is beautiful. It's so happy to hear you overcoming all these things, 1 year, one procedure after another. Let's go into something completely different, because I feel like a lot of people, especially in a huge city like Houston, have had to deal with this a lot. And that is, somebody hits you and they don't have insurance.
Yeah.
That has to lead to all kinds of emotions, I'm sure, of just dealing with, wow, you're just going to get to walk away and you've left me with this?
Yeah.
Really? How'd you deal with that?
Yeah. A lot of prayer. A lot of prayer. Again, in those nights in the hospital, I had begun to build bitterness towards a man that I don't know him. I don't know his name. I don't know anything about him. But I do know, because of a decision he made, my life was now impacted. And I held on to some bitterness for a long time. And what I began to realize is that the more we store trauma and bitterness and unforgiveness in our hearts, it impacts our bodies. And so what I learned throughout my healing journey is some of that bitterness, not only for the person who hit me, but thinking about the folks who didn't show up that I thought would show up during this time, the folks who, didn't call or didn't text, or the way that I was kind of treated differently now. When I begin to bar that bitterness, it delayed my healing, because now I'm storing trauma in my hips. I'm storing trauma in different parts of my body where I can't really fully be active and engaged in the physical therapy, because mentally and emotionally I'm storing so much. And once I begin to release that bitterness, once I begin to walk in forgiveness, and it's a process. It's not just one day. It was like, oh, I forgive him. It was like, when I got angry, I said, God, remove this feeling. I pray that he's well. I pray that he's blessed. And I pray that everything that I feel has been taken from me, God, that you restore unto me tenfold. And he has done that. I don't think that there is an amount of a settlement that could have been given to me at that time that could compare to all that I have received from 2017 up until now. God has literally shown out in my life in so many ways. And if I didn't get it in that particular way in which I thought I was old, God is always reminding me, but I'm blessing you in other ways. So forgive so that I can continue to bless you.
And I am so incredibly impressed with you of understanding about storing those memories and that pain in a wound, because there are actual medical studies that talk about the power of energy and medicine. And that's a real thing. I mean, that is tried and true. And so that you had the knowledge to know that and then to do something about it is so incredibly empowering. And it's something that I think everybody could learn from you for sure. Stephanie, you are a bright light in this often tough world. Thank you for sharing all that you've been through. I feel like car accidents are something that unfortunately that I report on every single morning on Fox 26 News. And we just say, oh, there's a crash here, avoid this highway. And you don't think about what's happening right there. Somebody's undergoing something like what you've been through right there on that highway. We drive by them every day. And so to be able to picture that and you be a face of what people are going through and how you can overcome is a beautiful thing. God bless you for
so much.
sharing all of this with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really am appreciative. And again, if I had not been in that accident, I wouldn't have the opportunity to be on this platform sharing how the grace and the mercy of God brought me through. And so I'm super thankful for your time today, Melissa.
Well, you are precious, and I feel blessed to have gotten to know you. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
All right, Stephanie Durr, everyone. She is amazing. And I just want to remind you, you can always catch me here Wednesday, 12:30 for Lunch for the Soul. If you have a story idea, hey, reach out to me. You can find me easily at Fox 26. And then I want to make sure if you missed part of this and you caught us late or you want to catch some other Lunch for the Souls, it's easy to find us. Just go to Fox 26 Houston on YouTube, look for Lunch for the Soul, and there you'll find us. I hope you have a beautiful day. I hope you'll be blessed. You always bless us by being here with us. Take care of you.